everybody. I am Lacey C. Clark. I am the CEO of Sister Sanctuary, aka Miss Phenomenal Everywhere. And I am focused, mission driven on personal empowerment, self love, primarily for women and girls. And I happen to have been trekking around the world on my self love journey as well as a journey in general for the last 25 years. And so I'm really excited to be here. So thank you for having me, Kelly.
Diversified Game. Learn how to start, run, and sustain your business.
Hey, it's Kellen, and today on Diversified Game, you heard it right. We have somebody who's not just writing books, but traveling the world and doing it on her terms. Now, you guys have to forgive me. You ever see me go off air? Out here in South Florida, it's warm, but man, they are coughing like crazy. So forgive me and let me blow my nose off camera if I need to do that. You guys, Lacey C. Clark is going to give us the game on how she created her book. She has books, and she's going to give us the game on how she is able to travel the world in case you want to, meet her in Mexico. Maybe she'd do this in Spanish, this interview, or in Kenya, or wherever she's traveling the world. Mambo Jumbo, Uhaligani, ¿cómo estás? Bienvenidos, Lacey. Welcome to
Thank
Diversified
you.
Game.
Gracias.
Uh,
That's not.
yes, yeah, okay, I got the Swahili. Swahili and Spanish. Talk to
Yeah.
anybody. They have some similarities. So just know that. Mi español es mal, but practica todos los días. But before we get into the books, because people think book money, like you say you wrote a book, they think that you're, rich. And that doesn't even happen if you're on the bestseller list for many. Let people know, someone who's writing and creating, can you tell the people, what do you do to pay your bills so you can write and travel? Because that's where the majority of people are going to want to know, what job do I need to have? What business do I need to start? Where do I start? And am I going to be a multimillionaire if I do that? Or am I going to be, in a budget? Please give us the game on that.
Yeah, so it depends on how you sell a book. If you try and sell one-on-one, if you sell to organizations, if you sell your company to many, that's a different type of structure, business structure, than trying to sell one-off books. So basically, I am an author and I have several books. I have 3 books. My books are personal empowerment. Well, my focus and my mission is personal empowerment for women. So a lot of my target market has been organizations throughout the years. My first book came out in 2006. Is that right? 2006. I forget, time is zooming by so fast. Damn it, 20 years ago. And so that's been my strategy ever since. It's basically actually having a strategy toward organizations. And so that's been, on top of that, as well as virtual speaking. When I was traveling, intermittently. So I didn't travel consistently for 25 years. I would, speak, do consulting, do training, do workshops, etc., as well as selling books. So it was a whole world as opposed to just the book. And then I would, travel intermittently. But when I did the workshops and the events and the things that are in person, they didn't need much of my time. And whatever time I wanted to do what I wanted to do in terms of travel, I did. And sometimes I would do virtual things as well. So, or I do virtual things as well. So that's the short game. It's not about one to one, but one to many.
Can you make it for the folks in the back, or who can't connect the dots, those virtual things? Because there's people who are making 6 figures on Fiverr and Upwork. There are people who are teaching online. Do you have to have a degree to do these things? And do you have a nugget to say, this website is always hiring if you can teach English or something like that? And what are those requirements?
So I never really got hired from one of those type of platforms, but I'm aware of them for sure. No, a lot of it's about what your expertise is. So what type of expertise do you have? And who is willing to pay for it? So if you have expertise, you package up your expertise into a viable course, book, curriculum, etc. and then you're able to sell it in that way. So you have a degree, not now, not today. I think maybe 20 years ago you had to have a degree, but I think a lot of it. I mean, I've been doing this for so long. Like I started this in 2001, so I've had brand recognition through agencies or organizations for quite some time. But as it relates to people just starting out, it depends on how you package it and where you sell it. Those sites do exist. Obviously the fibers, etc. It depends on what expertise you have to sell on there as well. But I'm not the person that's the expert in that area.
Okay, and you guys will then go rush over and say, "Let me see who this is, and let me see, what education they have." This is NYU over here. How important is it for like NYU connections? Because that's a big school. How much of that had to play into what you're able to do? Because there may be roads that you knew to took that somebody in Kentucky might not have known because they didn't have the NYU power behind them or exposure.
That's a great question. So, I think one of the things that NYU has taught me to do is made me, first of all, I went to school for storytelling. So think film. I went to school for film, TV storytelling, and communication. And so a lot of what I've done with NYU, what I learned at NYU is how to communicate, how to tell stories, how to connect with people, how to get people to connect with me. And so, yeah, like I don't want to underestimate that skill that one may learn in school. I think the school concept can be a powerful network that's beyond a person, but a person just starting on their own in the world. But I think that the way that the world is made up now, like, is really about, you being able to be visible and be consistent and trustworthy with what you have to offer. And I think people would really value what you have based on trust built online, through people that you know, and then willing to partake in what you have to offer.
Okay. And I want it to be clear because your social media, it's not like you're, slapping people behind the back. You don't have a huge social media, but you have made it work for you and being able to have money to travel and, stay at the Kopinski, when you're in Nairobi or,
Oh,
I'll
I know
throw them off.
that.
Yeah. So people will see that and say, well, if you don't have a big social and you're not dedicated to it and you don't have 100 books, can I do this with one or two books? And I don't want to mislead people because book money is not today's money. I always tell people and clients it's tomorrow's money, but it can set you up for what your speaking is, and you'll never be mad that you wrote a book. So we just want to make it clear because this is not the Burn Your Leisure podcast where we're bringing authors on and just write books and you'll be rich. Can you talk about, how important it is to budget when you're doing this travel as an entrepreneur?
It depends on what you're seeking to do. So my travel has been so many different levels of travel. I've been a digital nomad. I've been an expat. I've been a jet setter. I've been a repat. So it's so many different levels of travel. It depends on what your intentions are in your travel. So that can vary. If you're going for a week-long experience, that's one thing. If you're going for a 3-month experience, it's another thing. If you're going for a year-long experience, it's another thing. So it just depends on what you're doing or how you want to do it. You know what I mean? So because I've been doing this for 25 years, like I've done everything. Like I've been an expat, I've been a repat, I've been a digital nomad, I've been, location independent. I've been many different layers of travel. So I think the question is, how long you're going for, where you want to go, going to London versus going to, a Southeast Asian country, is different in terms of budget. So it just depends.
Okay. And you guys, everyone doesn't have a budget. Some people don't have to live within a budget because they're blue bloods or they've, hit big on something. But can you tell the people, how important when you're going to, relocate to Mexico or Kenya or anywhere in the world, do you always already have like a team of people who could help you, or do you get lost in the city and kind of figure it out, and why?
I don't know if it's that extreme in terms of getting lost, but a lot of my travel, because I'm a creative person, so a lot of it's about the adventure. Like if you see my Instagram, it says I'm a global adventurer. That's what I do. Like it's like, okay, so I'm not the structure type. I'm a creative type. So it's like, okay, show up. And people say, how do I choose like where I'm going next? Like it's spiritual. A lot of a lot of my travel is spiritual. Like, what kind of insight do I feel where do I need to go next? Like when I came to Kenya, my experience was like a spiritual call, like Kenya. I was trying to do something else. I was like, oh, maybe it's not Kenya. Maybe it's somewhere else. And it was like, no, go back to Kenya. Meaning go back in terms of the thinking to Kenya as opposed to going back physically. I had never been here before. So I think the whole journey around how I choose a place really is like different from a creative person, and I'm never a structured person. Rarely, I'm not gonna say never, but rarely. Like I've talked to people who have been in the country. Um, Sometimes I've been traveling 25 years, so before the internet. So before the internet, the first experience I had was study abroad. So there was that connection. And then the next connection was I knew people from NYU who I connected with when I went to Ghana. I lived in Ghana for a while. And then I stayed with the family like that. So, and then the next space, then I went to Senegal. That was only for 2 weeks though. And I went to Senegal. That was a different time period. I linked up with someone who knew of a place that I could stay. And I stayed there for I stayed there for 2 weeks. So it's just different. But so I'm kind of off the beaten path because I'm on a creative type of vibe. But some people actually are very structured and have their whole itinerary planned out and have everything down to the minute. I'm not that. Like I'm more of a flow.
Okay,
With
and we going with the flow.
Yeah.
You're always traveling. You're never there saying, "I'm going to buy a forever home or a vacation home."
Well, at those times, no. I think now in my world, that's part of my conversations now.
Okay. And I say that because a lot of our audience, they, we bring people with clients, audiences to different countries, and they get paid to travel and all this, interesting stuff. But people always ask me on the trip, how can I stay here? But you have to ask me. I'm never there to tell you because everybody's not meant to stay in Nairobi. Not everyone is meant to leave the Westlands. Not everybody is meant to go downtown Nairobi at night on certain streets because that's you got to be something in you, in that your spirit, because it can get real in the field. So
Absolutely. Absolutely.
yeah. So I never impose my own services or my own what I would want to do on anybody else. So if you say, "Oh, I have those interests of, I want to make 1 million shillings. Do you know anyone who can help me do that?" Yeah, I have Kenyan clients. I have clients who are in Kenya who've gone to Kenya, and I get it. But you're such a traveler and a storyteller. I want to see what your notebook looks like. I want to see like what your notes, whether it's on your phone or is it still pen to pad or is it the computer? What are you doing to like jot down all these daily stories?
Yeah, so that's a great question. It's on my phone. It's on my phone. Like I said, I've been doing this for a while. So like, and it's usually an inspirational thing. So if I like, have an experience like, oh, I gotta write this down. I'm trying to think the last experience I had like that recently here. I gotta look at it. But ultimately it's on my phone to be clear. And it's like it has to hit me like, oh, this is fire, or oh, this is interesting. Oh, I never thought about this, or something that makes me sit up and take notice. And so when I do that, or something that made me feel really beautiful, or something that made me like, okay, I wrote down today, should be so beautiful. It should be so beautiful. Why? Because it was like a beautiful day, like 78-ish. The breeze was blowing, the sun was, shining, it was super clear, the green was greening. It was just it was just so dope. You know what I mean? That experience of like, and I was just taking it all in, like, wow, this is Nairobi. Like I am on the continent taking in this beautiful weather. I am on the continent taking in this sun that's close to the equator. I like it was like all these like there's a moment that I have to just be grateful for. And it's really just like, touching my heart. So I just write down experiences that touch my heart. And then, and then at some point share them, whether it be written or if I perform it.
How has AI impacted? Are you able to use AI to make more stories? Are you a fan of AI? What's your take?
AI is not really a part of my dynamic. I mean, my stories are come from, like I said, they're emotional, so they're it's from my heart. So I don't go to AI and say what type of story should I write? What type of story should I write?
No, no. Let me rephrase. We're not trying to say that it's your ghostwriter, but there's also organization throughout your day and your creative process to say, take this story, categorize it like this, and put it in this folder. Like you can have AI agents now do a lot of stuff that virtual assistants do. So, I'm just seeing
Interesting.
how deep.
So that's dope. And that you said that, and I didn't think about it from that perspective. But to answer your question, I would say it's not a big part of my life. I'm aware of it, of course.
Mm.
Um, I'm not ignorant to it, and the fact that you said that is something really powerful. But no, I write them down or type them down, and then they just exist in the type form. And then I have a weekly newsletter that I send out called Phenomenal Everywhere-ness. We got a lot of phenomenals going on. We got the Phenomenal Everywhere, which is the solo play. This is the one woman show, which I did. It's the story. It's actually on audiobook as well. And then we have Phenomenal Everywhere-ness, which is the weekly newsletter that I actually send out self-love tips as well as short anecdotes or stories or experiences from my life around the world. And then we have I Am Phenomenal Everywhere, which is the children's book. A lot of phenomenal going on. But to answer your point, is that the stories just exist. And then I basically kind of like, grab them and like really kind of give them more love once I sit down with them some more. But that's the journey for the most part. Like what touches my heart, what I'm inspired by, I take note of it, I document it, and then I turn it into a story.
Teachable moment. So, are you the type of author that always has a book on hand if somebody wants a signed copy and they can buy from you right there?
I love it. Well, the thing is, because I travel, I always carry a book. Because I travel a lot, books are heavy. So I don't really have a lot of stuff. Like if I was more based in like the States and like had like an apartment, I probably would have all of my books in my bag somewhere. But because I travel a lot, I do have a copy of my books. But I don't have books like that. I have to order them when I want to get them.
Okay, so is Amazon the best place? And we can have links in the description if people want to get a copy.
Yes, Amazon is the best place. I know everybody's going through the whole thing of being mad at DEI, but that's where my mind live right now. Um, and because again, I'm not physical, I'm virtual in terms of like when I move around. It's the best place to get my books. Yes. The
Yeah,
good news is
and
it is. The good news is that the Kindle version they don't make that much money. So people support. You know what I mean. I appreciate the love and support, and I want you to spread the message and the love around with the books. However, the Kindle version doesn't make Amazon that much money. We get the majority of the money. So if you want to support it in that way,
yeah, and I'm a capitalist, so I'll start with that. I don't get in the whole thing of, I've heard this is what we do for a living, consulting people. So when people say, "Oh, Amazon's making too much money on me," then go create your own, and we can help you create it. Like we're techies, you can create your own thing if you have a problem. The fact is, more books are sold on Amazon than you're ever going to sell in your life. And you get to choose if your book isn't selling the way that you want it to, it's on you. It's a lot of it is on you. It's not on Amazon. Now, if you're not making the most money out of it, that's also on you. Extreme Ownership is a great book for people to read, um, because because as somebody who writes children's books, I have a $54 children's book. It hasn't
word.
sold a ton, but when people buy it, it's one of those books you keep on your coffee table or you let everybody see because it's beautiful. Now, our other paperbacks can sell more, but the libraries too, guess what they want? They want that hardcover. because that's what libraries buy. And that's where, when I got into the publishing game, that's what I wanted to do. So there's a teachable moment for those of you who say, but I want the libraries to buy my book. It ain't off Amazon, baby. Ingram Spark. There's your free tip for the day. Now,
Yeah.
now with you, you have so many websites, it's so hard to keep up. What's that main site people can go find you? Is it LaceyCClark.com, LaceyCClark.substack.com? What is it?
Well, if you want to actually go to Phenomenal Everywhereness, which is my weekly experience, that's actually on Substack. If you want to
Mhm.
find me personally, you can find me on Instagram, which is my name, Lacey C. Clark. So yeah, you can just basically find me. I would say if you want to engage in the self-loving experiences that I'm having, and as well as that I'm giving, and as well as the stories that I'm giving as well on Substack as Lacey C. Clark. But if you want to find me personally, as Lacey C. Clark on Instagram, Lacey C. Clark Substack, I'm sorry, and then Lacey C. Clark on Instagram. And you can get access to all my books on Instagram as well.
Okay, okay. And with, them following you and seeing everything that you have going on, I ask everybody, what is a community give back that they're doing or that they would like to do in the future? It's almost like your Substack is sharing to the world, but I also know you have, the books and websites that are on your link tree that can keep women safe. And you have like the 7 mistakes parents make, keep your daughter safe. I want you to go take your time, talk about your community give back, but also talk about keeping children, especially the daughters, safe. Because I truly believe, Lacey, every woman should know jujitsu. So if anybody's ever between your legs and they're bigger than you and you need to get them off violently, you can do it without prejudice and leave them with some marks. So give us your community give back and, inform us, please.
So my community give back primarily is because my mission and my purpose is for the betterment of the community, for the betterment of the world, for the betterment of our people. I feel like my whole stance is community give back. My whole stance. Because part of why I started Sister Sanctuary, which is my company, is because I was really disturbed by the messages that hip hop was sending young women. This is way back in 2002. I mean, still, still, but I was just truly disturbed. And I felt the way that we were talked about as women, the way that, young women were taking on those identities and those stances, that experience is why I started Sister Sanctuary. So everything I do, whether it's for profit or not for profit, it's in that same stance, which is I want to be a person that impacts the way young women see themselves, and then how they show up in the world, and family, how they show up in the world, and work, how they show up in the world with friendship. So to me, my whole posture is give back.
I get it. I dig it. I dig it to the fact where every day I talk about Africa and then I talk about business, and sometimes it always circles back. But the reason why is and tell me if I'm wrong on this from what you're seeing. I'm 43 years old. I don't see the people in my age range being able to retire in the next even 50 years, if ever. Buying houses they can't afford in America, paying for cars they can't afford, and thinking like this is the way it has to be. And Dave Ramsey has taught us you can live debt free if you want to. But in Mexico, you know this. You don't have to have a car. In Kenya, you don't have to have a car. But in America, the whole system is built like if you don't have a car in some cities, the bus don't go out there. Ain't nobody going out there. No one's giving you a ride. No thumbing it because they're scared. So that's why I do what I do. That's why I even do this podcast to show people stories like yours to say you can get outside the matrix. And this is a way you can do it. You can even call Lacey up, and maybe if you're really nice, she has a consulting package for you and she'll give you some game, right? And boom. But that's why I do what I do. So I totally get you on that. Am I wrong
Yeah,
on that retirement?
yeah. Well, I mean, see that. Yeah, I've been out the matrix for a long time. So that mentality or that equation it's not even in my sphere of like consideration in terms of how things are postured in the US. You know, because when you're in other countries, you know, different experiences. Like I'm in that conversation now with, you know, well, where this is when you ask me where is the quote unquote, I guess forever home or the investment property or the except like I'm in that conversation now. Before it was just like me traveling, me writing, me, you know, just being this creative being like in the world, just frolicking and just, you know, learning and being, which I'm super duper 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 grateful for. Um, you know, because I don't know who I would have been like in a confined cage of a job. Like I would have just really probably been horrible. I just anyway. The point I'm making is that those what do you call it? That equation. You know, you work, you retire, you buy a house, you get a white picket fence, you get a dog, you get kids, you get a husband. Like that equation is not even part of my concept anymore because I don't live like that. So when you're in other countries, the conversation changes in terms of what you're doing and how you're doing it and why you're doing it. So retire like the idea or the word retirement, the way that we've been taught to understand it, like is not part of the people that that's not the way I want to say it. What I want to say is it's not that equation is not part of my reality. Does that make sense? Am I clear?
Hello everyone. Come along with London and Sydney as they show you around the vibrant country of Cameroon. Explore the heart of Africa through the eyes of London and Sydney. Two explorers who journey across the great city of Yaoundé, exploring its rich culture, vibrant market squares, cultural heritage, and wildlife. With giggles and excitement, London and Sydney Explore Cameroon takes you on a fun-filled adventure, providing insight into the country's culture and traditions through the pages of this book. It's packed with exciting stories and super cool facts about Cameroon that will make you go, wow. Get your copy now, available on Amazon and in libraries near you. There's only one easy way to experience the exploration of Cameroon, and it's through London and Sydney. Don't wait, get yours.
It makes sense. I want to pry, if you allow me to, a little bit. Just my audience is halfway crazy like me. And I want to make sure, because for our thing, what you just said, you know, the whole, you know, kids, wife, I have all that. Retirement, I live like I'm retired, many people say, but I plan to do this for the rest of my life. Like, I don't have a time where I just need to have like a pension only. There's things that in life I've set up where this is going to always come in every month. And, you know, depending on what you do with it, reinvest or spend it, that's on you. But when you say you don't even have that, people don't get it, right? They think you're either uber privileged or that you're clueless. And so what happens when you need somebody to, you know, take care of you is what people are thinking. What happens when they think at 80 you won't want to work, but I know plenty of 80-year-olds who have passions that they work on daily. When you just want to have Social Security or a pension, where are you thinking in case things go wrong? What type of investments have you done? You know, whether it's a mutual fund or defined benefit plan where you're safeguarding so no one has to see you as a liability. That's what people, I think, are wanting to make clear.
So a couple things you said. Again, I'm out of the matrix to a degree. What does that mean? The people that again, for the most part, the last 25 years, I've lived in and out intermittently, again, around the world. So I haven't really been in like the matrix equation, which is you work, you know, get a degree, you buy a house, you get a car, you go to I just gave you the equation. I'm not in that equation. So to me, that's in the matrix. Out of the matrix to me is okay. So first of all, I can't focus on the frequency of that's just me. This is just me. I'm not saying everybody else got to be thinking like me, but the frequency of, you know, what if things go wrong. Like I've lived on 5 continents, and I thank God nothing has gone wrong yet. No, not even yet. Cancel that. 5 continents. You know what I mean? As a woman, like, that's been my journey. So somebody else will say, well, what are you going to do if if you go on one continent and something goes wrong? Like, I can't think that way. I'm not saying things can't go wrong. What I am saying is that my focus is not there. So to answer your question in reference to me, like I have, this is where I'm at right now in terms of building property experiences around the globe. I'm in a more business minded, but again, prior to like now, maybe I was in the last year or so, prior to the last year, like when I was in Mexico, I didn't really think about Mexico. That's another story. I was going to say, when I was in Mexico, I didn't think about business in Mexico because Mexico, in a sense, was temporary for me. Where I really started out before I went to Mexico was Montreal. And I was going to be in Montreal indefinitely, but then COVID happened. And they started getting silly and started getting sick with these daggone shutdowns. So anyway, I say all that to say, I'm now thinking about the business investments in the places that I want to be. Right now, I'm in Kenya. And so that's a possibility. And I'm also thinking more about the continent and the investments and things that the continent offers, specifically because it's still very much developing. And so Kenya is not the only place. There are other places that I have sights on in terms of investing, in terms of business, in terms of things of that sort. So this is where I am right now. But prior to this point, again, I was an artist. I don't think like a lot of folks think. I was an artist that just, was doing my artsy thing with my books. I was a business person in terms of me being to sell books to organizations, and that's what I did in consulting and workshops and speaking engagements and all that stuff. That was what I was doing. Still do. But what I was anchored more in the States, again, intermittently, it was do that kind of work. And then when you stack up your chips per se, or have your business, your finances come in from your speaking engagements and all the above, then you can take that time to do what you want to do for however long you want to do it. So I hope that answers your question.
It does. And I want to make sure you're in a safe space. You don't have to justify and talk about just you, because this is a place for the oddballs, the weirdos, the outliers who know that there's something greater than what somebody else has told them. I had mentioned about, clients in Kenya. I was talking to one gal right before this interview that we're doing, and she's, in Kenya, in one of our clients. And, just talking about the opportunities in Africa and all the African billionaires that are there, that we don't have to go outside of Africa for anything if we don't want to. So, yeah, I'm not, you're good. You're good. I just want to make it clear for others, because people, and I've experienced this, so they will vilify you and make you feel less than because, wait, you don't have as much as I have in my savings, or you don't have the same plan that Warren Buffett has. And it's like, there's more than one way. And guess what? Warren Buffett is rich and wealthy as he is because he's outlived a lot of people. You may get there, but you may not get there, right? And something in your life might tell you, I have a friend, she's like, I know I'm going to die before this age. I say, don't say that. She's like, no, it's going to happen, but I'm going to live the best years and have much of a rich life and not worry about that. So my question, if you said, oh, go ahead.
I want to respond to that real quick. What I was going to say is that I think too, to me, what I'm hearing is that it boils down to values. Like, I think that, again, when we talk about American values, a lot of the values relate to physicality and things that are, physical, or things that are like, tangible, or things that actually say, okay, this is the value of success. And I'm saying, for me in my world, my definition of success is not that. My definition of success is not really things, it's more experiences. However, I understand how things can actually can bless other people, things like, things. So depending on the type of person you are, and depending on what your values are, and depending on how you define success, to me, the fact that I'm, what's the word? Like, time affluent, the fact that I own my time, the fact that I've been doing this for 25 years. Like, I'm so grateful for a life that I created for me, that works for me, because this is what I value. Now, somebody else may think that if I don't have this 1 + 1 = 2, or if I don't have these 3 + 3 = 6, then I'm not successful. But to me, I define what success is to me. I define what what's valuable to me. And because I live my life that way, I am proud of my life. Now, I'm not saying it may work for anybody else. What I'm saying is that I thank God that it worked for me. You know what I'm saying? I don't have those same values.
Yeah, and to make it make sense, to the audience, where you say, wait, she said she sold books to organizations. What if she sold 1,000 organizations 100 of her books? Yeah, they bought them for $100. She's made her six figures. She can travel the world because most of the world does not make 100,000 US dollars a year when you travel. So, there's so many different ways that you can make money, or you can have 100 organizations buy books for 1,000, whatever, right? But can you tell the people, you mentioned the 5 continents. Can you mention, we talked about Mexico, we talked about Kenya. I assume Europe is in there. Tell them some of the countries, and so far, what have you been your favorite 2? Because I know Kenya is one of them, but give us
How you know
the game.
how you know it's my favorite? You don't know it's my
Because
favorite yet?
because I have a gift, and I know it is because the
Right.
hospitality,
I'm
the
learning
hospit.
Kenya. See, I'm learning Kenya. So to answer your first question. So I live in 5 continents, many countries. So I live like right, Europe, Africa, North America, South America, and Asia.
No,
Those are
but give
5.
them the countries though. Give them the countries though.
So the country I lived in Asia was Thailand. I lived in
Hmm.
Thailand. I lived in Malaysia. Those were 2 in Asia. I lived, of course, North America. I lived in America, but I also lived in Canada. I lived in Montreal. I was in love with Montreal, but then again, COVID happened. I lived in Mexico. I lived in Colombia. I lived in, what am I missing? Oh, Paris. I lived, no, that's it. So Paris, I lived in,
Senegal. Did you live in Senegal, or you just visited Senegal?
oh, Ghana. I forgot to say Ghana. Yeah. No, I did not live in Senegal. I visited Senegal, but I lived in Ghana.
Okay. 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 And yeah, I haven't been yet. Nangadaf to all the Senegalese, Nangadaf and Bifarek. But I have heard Senegal on West Africa has the best customer service. I'm a Sierra Leonean. If you can't see the flag up there, y'all, go over to YouTube. That's why. All my flags are behind me. But
Right.
I hear Senegal, you guys have great customer service. You could the rest of West and Central Africa could learn from Kenya and Ethiopia. Just the customer service is proper. It's just proper. Um
Okay.
your favorite country, our favorite 2, so we don't put you in a battle between. What have you liked thus far?
So again, when I was deeply in love with Thailand when I was there, it had reached its expiration point because, like when you're in love, right? You don't always see the flaws, you overlook the flaws. And when I was there, it was like a extreme, I won't say extreme, but a very deep call. And I loved like the feeling when I got off the plane. It was a feeling like, oh my God. And I just kept, before I moved, I kept going back every single year. I went 2 weeks the first time. I went 2 months the second time. I went 3 months the third time. And the fourth time I stayed for a year. And so Thailand, that's one it was. Now I had out, it had, the underbelly came out for me. And I was just like, it was over. The love affair was over. The love affair was over. And the second one, I was deeply in love with was Montreal. But then I left when COVID happened. But see, I guess I wasn't that in love. I was like, kind of like, I'm out because it got crazy. Obviously, it changed dramatically, and they were getting silly with the whole passport. What's it called? COVID passport thing. Passport. I'm like, I'm not doing it. And it was on the lockdowns a lot, and I was actually stuck up there because obviously at that point I couldn't cross the border because the border was closed. So if I had left, I couldn't come back. So I was like there. I was like, I don't want to be like this. So I left. So it was, I would say, so at that time, it was Thailand at one point, then Malaysia another time. And I'm sorry, Thailand and then Montreal, excuse me. But then Malaysia was cool. I was in Penang. Um, I don't think I was in love with Penang. I was in love with the food in Penang. I was in love with the food in Penang. But I needed Malaysia after I left Thailand. I actually moved to Malaysia after I left Thailand.
Love them and leave them. A lot of the ladies are online thinking, well, what about love as far as, going back into that Matrix talk? Love them. And if you can love and leave the countries, you can definitely love and leave the person who doesn't have the passport. How has dating, what does dating look like? Because again, everybody's dating or even marriage is not the same. And somehow people start arguing about things. Look, we're on different algorithms. You live that way. This person lives that way. You got one wife. This person has 50. You don't get to dictate how other people live. But how has that been, as an American, as a Black American, where, you're seeing the world, we dictate culture in a lot of that world. Go to Korea, you'll hear more K-pop going down the street. You'll be like, you think that you're in old school Harlem or something. Like, and everybody is nice in Korea. Everyone's nice in the Philippines. Everybody's nice in Japan. But what is dating like for you?
I want to say, I'm answering that question, but I was going to say also that even though I talked about the ideas of living somewhere, I also visited a lot of countries as well, in addition to the countries that I lived in. So I just want to say that in terms of different experiences. So I have dated on every continent. I've dated on every continent. And it's so fast, but I mean, dating and relationships and attraction is so fascinating. It's one of the things I learned traveling the world because, one person's beauty standard in the States is another person's beauty standard on the continent of Africa or in Asia or in, South America. I mean, it's just so many different types of experiences. I think there so I can answer this question in so many different ways. What I will say is that, culturally, dating means a lot of different things in different countries, like you just kind of almost said. When you're in, South America, like first of all, I had to keep asking myself, is this person a partner for me in my lifestyle? So even though I had a lot of experiences with people and they were able to like treat me well and I was able to hang out and I was able to have a good time and really, enjoy deeper aspects of learning the culture by dating someone, the question I had to keep coming to myself about is this person a fit for me and my lifestyle, the way I move? Like that, I had been moving around the world throughout all the continents in terms of, dating. So I had a great time. I had beautiful experiences. I wouldn't take them back. But in terms of a woman specifically, like when I was dating in Malaysia, I was dating an African. He was from Nigeria in Malaysia. But when I was even in that experience, like a lot of people were still sedentary in their country, or they had a woman like me is very rare, or still very out the box, or still like, can I even control this? You know what I mean? Like when I was in certain places, it was about, women being tied to a man. Like that's the value you have as a woman, to be tied to a man and be tied to family. Or that should be your first thinking. So it's so many different layers and levels of culture and what it really means to be partnered with someone of another culture. And then those cultures, did they complement my lifestyle, which is even still very avant-garde for America, which is very much, I guess you would say the most quote, the most supportive or the most encouraging of women having a voice, having, a life, having things to say, having things to do, etc. So, I mean, we can talk all day about the dating experiences, but in short, I would say, it was fascinating for me to learn because it's part of the adventure, if you will, about the view of women, about what does it mean to be partnered with someone of a different culture and different country. Does it complement my lifestyle and what I see for myself in the future? Like it was so many different questions I had to ask myself in these experiences. And so some women would actually say, they would change the way that they are for love. For me, it's about complementary. It's not about like, women say, okay, I'll just give up everything to be in this place. And people have, and God bless them. You know what I'm saying? For me, it was about, does it complement the women I know myself to be? and the woman I want myself to be in the world. So there's a lot of questions in terms of dating. I don't think it's as simple as he's cute or, he's fine. He got money, let's rock. It's so many cultural questions that need to be answered. And for some it works. For some people compromise. For some people shrink. For some people, so many different things. Specifically for women from America, because again, our American lifestyle is very rare. It's very rare, and yeah.
I dig it. I dig it. And, she says she can go all day on that. I want you guys to go bother her on her social and say, I want to hear more of those stories piece by piece on her own YouTube and talk about every date that she's gone on, every situation, and just give it an 8 minutes or less type breakdown, because that's the start of getting her addicted to getting on the YouTube and doing more stories if she's willing to share. She might not be willing to share, but y'all go bother her, because I'm telling you, there's some stories there. Because it's funny, you find like you're always around the same people no matter where you go. You'll find that magnet, and they'll be different to start. Then you go deeper and say, oh, this person is loco la cabeza as me, as the last person I met, and it's just the journey. It's a spiritual journey. Now, great storytellers always have people wanting more. That's why I'm going to conclude and close here. But I want you to get any of your last words. Let them know again where to find you, how to buy, book you, all those things. Don't come to her for free. She's traveling. She got to have that money to travel. You guys want to hear more stories. So please let them know where they can get you, and any last words.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So so I do tell stories through my Phenomenal Everywhere-ness newsletter every week. That'll eventually be another book as well. But right now it's on Phenomenal Everywhere-ness. That's actually on Substack. So my name, Lacey C. Clark. I'm on Instagram. I'm not heavy on Instagram, but I'm available. Lacey C. Clark once again. Oh, the Substack. I'm sorry, the newsletter was a Substack. So you can find me in that way. And all my books, again, available are on Amazon with my name, Lacey C. Clark. Like, if you type me in, you can find me. I've been around for a minute. My company is Sister Sanctuary, and like I said, I've been around for a while, and the intention, again, is personal empowerment for women. But I talk to all kind of audiences. I talk, of course, all over the globe. But the intention primarily is to have people understand the value of themselves and be able to bring that best value to not only themselves, but in their community, their partners, and then the world. That's the intention. So my show is phenomenal. Everybody see my show? Phenomenal Everywhere. You can see it. Phenomenal Everywhere. As, and I have a children's book coming out. I am phenomenal everywhere. It's actually available right now for pre-order, but it'll be out March 13th. But it's my life story condensed. I have several different stories I want to tell, but my life story condensed into a children's book. Phenomenal Everywhere is my life story about me living around the world and finding my self-love. And then I Am Phenomenal Everywhere is the children's version of that story.
And with the children's book, do you also have plans of turning it into any animation, doing your own voiceover?
I would love to. Yeah. I do. To be clear, I do. And also the intention is to make the I Am Phenomenal Everywhere aspect a series, because there are, again, so many stories to tell from the youth perspective, to the youth perspective, or for the youth perspective.
Well, you guys have got the game. Again, if you're taking that ride somewhere and you couldn't stop, but you can stop now, go over to the YouTube, check it out, like it, comment. But most importantly, you guys, links are in the description. Share this game with somebody. It will change their life. Remember, it's a family business. Y'all be blessed.
Are you tired of the violence? Tired of the injustice, police brutality, rampant discrimination, lack of gun control in this failed biased socioeconomic experiment called America? Or maybe you need a break from the relentless grind and want to regain control of your destiny, your wealth, your health, and your purpose. DiversifiedGame.com has the right course for you. Prepare for my first trip to Africa. Looking to reconnect with your roots, start a new business, or just a fresh start. Africa, aka the motherland, is waiting. Don't let the Chinese and the Mzungus have the fun and also take over the motherland. From Cairo to Mombasa, from Dakar to Cape Town, Africa has something for everyone, from business opportunities to the most amazing people, safety, leisure, and landscapes. The opportunities abound. It is time for the diaspora to reconnect with their roots. Time to reconnect with the birthplace of humanity. Africa is the last frontier. Get your head in the game and reclaim your legacy. The writing is on the wall. Babylon is falling. Give up the stress, grind, and violence inflicted on our people on this continent and prepare for a journey of restoration and joy by connecting with the land of your ancestors. Check out our new course and kick off your adventure at diversifiedgame.com.